you know what? Why not just play games for real? Just do it in like your real life. I mean, if you want to conquer the world rather than manipulate a virtual world, I could like play this game for real.
In April of 2019, Virgil Griffith, a hacker and cryptocurrency developer, illegally travels to North Korea. The question is, why is he going?
The U.S. government has designated the DPRK a state sponsor of terrorism.
Virgil went to North Korea to attend the Pyongyang Blockchain and Peace Conference.
I honestly thought this was a quirky tourist trip.
North Korea views cyber world as a battlefield, using the stolen cryptocurrency to evade sanctions and ultimately fund their weapons program.
Is this an innocent conference, or are the North Koreans hoping there's more Virgil can teach them?
The U.S. government provided photographs, Mr. Griffith in front of a whiteboard, and the term "no sanctions, yay," with a smiley face.
He doesn't have the intention to go over there and to harm the United States because he was oddly patriotic.
Yeah, I do want to conquer the world. I really do.
Who is Griffith? Is he this devious, treasonous Benedict Arnold?
This is somebody who made a mistake.
Crypto is the new Wild West.
North Korea's operatives, using keyboards rather than guns, have become the world's leading bank robbers.
A magnet for crime and for revolution.
Placed on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list.
A playground for outlaws and visionaries.
A man who's made a fortune in cryptocurrency running for president.
But can anyone truly control cryptocurrency? Only a few dare to try.
I'm a special agent with the New York office of the FBI. I first met Mr. Griffith at an interview that he had with the FBI here in New York. Mr. Virgil Griffith is a highly educated, highly capable individual and could use his capabilities to serve any government or any cause. In April of 2019, Mr. Griffith traveled willingly and intentionally to the DPRK to provide a service on how the DPRK could evade sanctions on them by use of cryptocurrency.
The government takes these sanctions very seriously. And in November of 2019, Virgil is charged with conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a charge that carries a possible 20-year sentence.
What the government's case was about was Virgil had gone over there and had essentially transferred knowledge about how cryptocurrency works, how the blockchain works, and something that they believed would allow North Korea potentially to avoid sanctions.
I first heard of Virgil when I was asked to cover his trial, which was happening in New York. There were a lot of people from the crypto community there. I think people were interested in Virgil's case because it's the first US sanctions case that involves cryptocurrency.
The DPRK have committed human rights atrocities on their own people. They have murdered US citizens, and they have threatened the US homeland with nuclear weapons. Sanctions are an important deterrent for US adversaries to deter national security threats and is a last option before military force.
So why does a 26-year-old tech geek want to visit a nation that's threatening America with nuclear war?
I don't think he believes in the North Korean regime, its principles, its leader at all. This was a chance for him to get a glimpse of a bizarre world that is entirely antithetical to the principles in which he himself believed.
So hi everyone, I'm Virgil. So I'm here from the Ethereum Foundation. I'm sure, nice to meet you all. Nice to meet you all, yeah. So
Virgil Griffith was the head of special projects at the Ethereum Foundation. He's a pretty well-known hacker and Ethereum developer.
When Virgil joins Ethereum in 2016, it's one of the fastest growing cryptocurrencies in the world, second only to Bitcoin. Ethereum's rising popularity makes Griffith a massive player in the crypto world.
The Ethereum system is more reliable than a judge's brain.
He's a computer scientist, he's a neuroscientist, he's a friend of mine. I consider him to be one of the smartest, most brilliant people I've ever met in my life.
Well, let's give it up again for Hope, for Chelsea Manning, for Emmanuel, for Kyle, for the volunteers, for all of you for being here and making Hope what it is.
I believe I first met Virgil at one of our conferences. The magazine happens to deal with computer hackers and technology and privacy and all sorts of things like that. We basically hit it off because that's the kind of person I like to talk to and ask a lot of questions of, and he was always interested in something. He was on a reality TV show, for God's sake.
So can you put me on the moon or something? My name is Virgil Griffith, and I'm from Pasadena, California.
Is Virgil king of the nerds? King of the nerds.
You know, he was a pretty charismatic person, had a lot of friends, was always known for being pretty gregarious and bubbly.
Multiply that by 1,000. That's Virgil.
Actually, I don't call myself a master hacker. I call myself a journeyman hacker, or a journeyman of the internet dark arts.
Virgil epitomizes what many hackers are. People who are intensely curious, willing to go to great lengths to explore.
So computer hacking, they use their skills to uncover things digitally, and they share it with the world. They're politically or socially motivated to change the world for the better.
But most importantly, they want to explain everything to anybody who will listen. That, to me, is what epitomizes a hacker, and that's Virgil to a T.
Virgil may like to explain things, but does he explain too much?
At the time that Virgil visited North Korea and shared this information at the conference, cryptocurrency was early use in North Korea. Now, as we look back, we realize that them being able to gain a foothold in cryptocurrency-related crime posed a great risk to the rest of the world.
They're responsible for trying to steal more than $1.2 billion, making North Korea today the world's leading bank robber.
And it's now clear where the stolen billions are going.
We've been able to show that North Korea is using the stolen cryptocurrency to evade sanctions and ultimately fund their weapons program.
Before his ill-fated and illegal trip to North Korea, hacker Virgil Griffith makes a name for himself as a crypto evangelist, a devout believer in the utopian idea that this new and nationless digital currency can help create a better and more equal world.
In Virgil's position as the director of special projects at the Ethereum Foundation, a lot of what he did was work with international groups to kind of spread the gospel of Ethereum. Something he had worked on for years was how to make Ethereum compatible with Islamic financial law.
One thing that might interest y'all, we've now gotten a fatwa declaring Ether to be a Sharia-compliant asset. And the next one is to try and get Ether blessed by the Vatican. That's the next.
Virgil even says he went to North Korea believing that this technology can be used to help mend fences between North Korea and the West.
There was concern at the Ethereum Foundation. From what I understand, he was told not to go.
Virgil's employers aren't the only ones telling him not to make the trip. The U.S. State Department bans all U.S. citizens from traveling to North Korea without the express permission of the U.S. government.
I think that there's a strong libertarian, privacy enthusiast streak in a lot of early crypto adopters. This highly sanctioned, highly secretive regime is kind of catnip to somebody like Virgil.
It's a weird-ass place. It's like nothing you've ever seen or nothing you ever will see. If you can't make it to another planet, this might be the closest thing. It's irresistible. And Virgil has always been somebody who is fascinated by the crazy.
It's not surprising that Virgil's friends and lawyer describe this trip as nothing more than an adventure. But does that really add up? Not to the FBI, and they expressly tell him not to go.
Mr. Griffith requested special validation from the U.S. government to visit the DPRK. The U.S. government denied that request.
But that doesn't stop Virgil from going, and he doesn't go alone.
When the blockchain conference pop up on my social media, I say, wow, that seems like a new, different way to be able to go in North Korea and to get in touch also with people that are passionate about tech.
Not every country has sanctions against their citizens going to North Korea, But Virgil isn't the only one who gets in trouble for going.
Christopher Ems is on the FBI's most wanted list for allegedly helping North Koreans develop blockchain technology to evade US sanctions.
I'm actually here in Moscow, Russia. If I went to the US, no doubt, straight in jail. It still baffles me. So in 2019, I was approached to see whether I would like to attend a cryptocurrency conference in North Korea. I was living in London at the time. So I checked the Foreign Office guidance. Is it illegal to go to North Korea? Is it illegal to speak at a conference in North Korea? The answer was no.
But despite Chris Ems being a UK citizen and not bound by the same sanctions against North Korea as Virgil is, the US government considers the risk of North Korea using cryptocurrency so dangerous, they take the rare position of trying to enforce these sanctions on him as well.
I got on a plane to Beijing, met a number of other people, including a gentleman called Virgil Griffith. How I would describe him is a highly intelligent human being who was very funny.
We were a group of 8 persons, very random, very different, but care about the technology. So it was like the good occasion to visit that curious country with a good excuse of a conference.
I thought this is just going to be a quirky tourist trip. North Korea seems like somewhere interesting to at least see in your life. And we all jumped on a plane to Pyongyang. It's a lovely new airport with no one in it. You go through immigration, then something quite scary happened. We were warned before going. One of the most important things to not have when you arrive in North Korea is anything that would be offensive to North Korea. And the other thing was no pornography.
But one of the participants had some erotic picture on his desktop.
That didn't go down very well. We get to the hotel, we get taken in a room and told, right, everyone give us your passports.
So in the group, we said multiple times, guys, let's don't do stupid things.
So we had 3 guides with us the whole time. There was a lot of gallows humor. The funniest person really was Virgil, because Virgil just did not have a filter. He sat on the back of the bus with one of the guides and he asked them a few questions. The guy's got my passport. We're all getting a bit nervous because of what he's asking. Where do you pick up girls was the first question. Then he said, do you have condoms in North Korea? I think they took us to some kind of garden and he gets out his phone and he shows her a cat meme or something and she burst out laughing. These people really, they've never seen anything in the outside world. So I think that really helped me understand North Korea a lot more.
But the group has not been invited for a tourist trip. The blockchain and cryptocurrency conference is what it's all about, and their North Korean handlers bring them to the main event.
We're taken into this building called the SciTech Center. From the outside, amazing building. Inside, no one there. We get taken into this seminar room. There's no prep, there's no nothing. Eventually, these people start arriving, and I wouldn't say it was more than maybe 30, 40 people, but let's just say they weren't the tech masterminds. Well, if they were, then they're really good at hiding it. Pre this, the night before, the guides had told us this has to go well for us because we've got your passports and they're thinking about what they're going to do over the port. So we start speaking. So Virgil's subject, I believe, was blockchain and peace. He's wearing a Mao suit that he bought from a flea market for a joke.
All the topic was very basic.
It was so boring that people were falling asleep.
What he spoke about, as I understand it, was things that you would ordinarily be able to get from a simple Google search.
Is this all much ado about nothing, as Virgil's lawyer describes it? Or is there more here? Did Virgil accomplish his goals, whatever they are? What about the dangerous North Korean government? Did they get what they wanted? The conference is over, but the mystery's not.
We get to the hotel, found a bar, and we all had a drink. That's done. You know, that's a story for the grandkids. Let's move on with our lives.
With his North Korean adventure at an end, Virgil returns to Singapore and does something unexpected the moment he gets back.
When he got back to Singapore, he went to the US Embassy and told on himself. Virgil, being Virgil, believing that if he helped the government and shared this information and was so forthcoming about what he did and where he was, that he wouldn't be put into any jeopardy, and that changed his life forever.
In May of 2019, Virgil is back in the United States. But his trip to North Korea and what he shared with the US Embassy in Singapore is not forgotten by the US government. The FBI have more questions for Virgil Griffith.
In an FBI interview, we're trying to obtain whether a violation of US law occurred or a threat to national security. We spoke about the details of what occurred during his travel to the DPRK.
At that time, there really was no case against Virgil. He had just spoken with the FBI. It sounded like that interview went really well, but I had reservations and concerns about him interacting with the FBI without a lawyer.
The investigation accelerated when we learned there was a second conference being scheduled back into the DPRK.
I really think that the sharing of that second conference by Virgil is what led him into trouble, because he was so enthusiastic of what we did. He posted on Twitter multiple times.
We interviewed Mr. Griffith a second time at the San Francisco field office of the FBI.
He's an information sharer. He's also a little bit garrulous. He keeps talking, and maybe sometimes he doesn't know when to stop.
He was convinced that if he just went to the FBI and told them the truth, that would be enough. And it's not how the world works.
We offered him to provide consent to search his phone, and he provided us both oral and written consent.
Virgil's phone provides the FBI with what they need to convince them of Virgil's guilt.
Mr. Griffith, over nearly 2 years, worked to provide services to the DPRK government, to include recruitment and promotion of the second conference, and developing plans to provide cryptocurrency mining equipment and node infrastructure, networking devices for the blockchain into the DPRK itself. A law enforcement response was necessary.
Because you had the big three here. You had hackers, you had cryptocurrency, you had North Korea, all wrapped up into one package. I mean, what prosecutor isn't going to jump on that?
On Thanksgiving Day 2019, Virgil Griffith is arrested at Los Angeles International Airport on his way to visit his family.
Virgil is naive, and I mean that in a good way. He trusted them, and he shouldn't have.
We all were expecting it to be the first day of trial. Virgil had always maintained his innocence, and then we all found out that he had pleaded guilty.
Virgil had to make that decision himself based on, I think, the weight of the government's case and the evidence that was there and his ability to contest that evidence, that it may have been wiser for him to plead guilty.
Some of the evidence was revealed during sentencing.
Evidence that includes a transcript of Virgil's presentation at the conference, made from an audio recording obtained by the US government from an undisclosed source. If you, the DPRK, send payments, you had to go through the US, and for international agreements, you had to go through the UN. With this new technology, you don't have to do that anymore, and it's great. The government also reveals electronic communications from Virgil's phone. So the most important feature of blockchains is that they are open, and the DPRK can't be kept out no matter what the USA or the UN says.
They're clear as day to strike at the heart of the system of sanctions.
The government's evidence casts doubt on Virgil's version of events and convinces him to accept a plea deal.
If Virgil had taken his chances with trial, he was facing 20 years in prison. He just looked beaten. Part of the plea deal is that Virgil had agreed with the government to take 5 to 6.5 years is what he was looking at. The thing that really sticks out to me most was Virgil's parents were sitting in the audience, maybe in the first or second row, and there's just this moment where he's in his khaki jumpsuit and he looks at his mom for what is just a really, really long moment, like he's just kind of soaking in the image of her because he knows that it's going to be a long time before he gets to see her again.
Getting to know Virgil would have been obvious that he didn't have the intention to harm the United States or help North Korea.
I don't think the judge cared at all. The line I really remember is that he was a narcissist who wanted the spotlight.
Mr. Griffith may have benefited financially and could have gained to his own personal brand. Mr. Griffith planned to come home from the DPRK as a crypto hero.
This was not some kind of orchestrated, sanctions dodging, one-on-one, how do we help the North Koreans buy nukes with crypto? It is absolute rubbish.
If I had to describe cryptocurrency, I would say it terrifies some very powerful people. And I think you're seeing that manifest itself. The message sent through Virgil's case is that if you go to North Korea, if you get too involved in cryptocurrency, we're going to come after you and we're going to win.
Justice was served. The mission of the FBI is to protect the American people. This investigation and prosecution was exactly that.
Virgil should be on a lecture tour of Ivy League schools, sharing his knowledge. And instead, he's sitting in a prison.
I can't speak to Mr. Griffith's heart and mind. Unfortunately, he decided to engage in a nearly 2-year-long criminal conspiracy with a U.S. adversary.
We all have the curiosity. We all do something just because. And all of that is who Virgil is. I wouldn't tell him to change. And I just hope the Virgil that we get when he comes out is the same magical Virgil that we've had for so many years.